All right, everybody, welcome to our podcast once again. We are not going to talk about Antonio Brown, no matter how much we might want to.
It'd take too long.
It would take way too long.
Too long, and I'm sick and tired of talking about him.
I'm not.
I'm
love
sick
it.
and tired of hearing about him too.
I love the soap opera that is
Whatever.
Antonio Brown.
I'm so excited to get into to get rid of all the non-football talk and start seeing football plays and highlights and, just actual football.
Are you telling me that Antonio Brown punching his general manager in the face isn't a highlight to you?
That's
not going to be on his sizzle reel?
If he live streamed it, that would have been awesome. And he actually did it.
Oh my god.
That's something that he would do.
You know what's crazy? That's not even that. That's not too far off. Like, I wouldn't be too surprised if that actually happened.
Yeah. Well, like you said, we're not going to talk about Antonio Brown today.
You're right. Even though that probably is the next step in this. That's the next episode in his soap opera. He's gonna live stream him getting into a fight with somebody.
Yep, we're gonna have to talk about it.
Somebody's gonna insult his mustache. All right. Well, we were both wrong on Thursday's game. We both picked the Bears to win that game. Surprise, they lose 10-3. Do you want to start off on that?
Yeah. I mean, I guess the NFL picked up right where they left off with a defensive battle with a little scoring. I'm not super upset by that. I was upset by the Super Bowl because there was a lot of things that I had hoped for from the offenses. But, I mean, the defenses played great on Thursday.
Yeah.
Especially when you're talking about Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams and Jimmy Graham on the Packers side of things.
Yeah, Jimmy Graham kind of looked like Jimmy Graham of old. He had some good highlight plays.
Yeah. I like Jay Sternberger, who's behind Jimmy Graham, and I thought would send Jimmy Graham on a run for his money.
I didn't see him play at all, that I remember.
No, I mean, I think they'll probably play him at some point throughout the year. I mean, at least insert him in some situational downs. But I would have liked to see more of David Montgomery, the rookie in Chicago.
Absolutely.
He looked good with the few touches that he got. And so that probably bodes well for him for the rest of the year.
I mean, Chicago's leading rusher was Mike Davis with 19 yards.
Yeah, and there was a total of 15 rushing attempts on the Chicago offense. So
it was not balanced at all. Mitchell Trubisky had 42 pass attempts, I think.
Yeah, so I think we learned, and the Bears learned that they can't rely on Mitchell Trubisky very much. They need to sort of switch it up and get the rushing attempts going a little more. Because Mitchell Trubisky had 45 passing attempts. And he had 280-something yards, but the production wasn't there.
Yeah, they absolutely need to figure out a balance on offense. And I was surprised because they have Matt Nagy, who's supposedly an offensive kind of coach. He's got an offensive mind. He's got some good schemes. So I was surprised. Mitchell Trubisky is in his third year now?
He's, his third year, I think.
At some point, you want your franchise quarterback that you pick number 2 that you traded up one spot to get, you want him to start making those franchise quarterback throws. And at the end of the game, during crunch time, when they're in that 2-minute drill and they need a touchdown to tie the game and go to overtime, right? He's missing those throws that are tough throws, to Allen Robinson and his other receivers to get down the field. He's missing those throws, and while they are tough, tight window throws, those are the kind of passes that you want your franchise quarterback to be able to make. That's what you want to see out of your franchise guy, and Mitchell Trubisky just did not provide that at all in that game.
Yeah, and I hope it's not a glimmer of the whole 2019 season for him.
Yeah, hopefully not, because I really like this Bears offense.
Yeah, and they can definitely switch it up and be more successful in both facets of the game, in the rush and pass game, if they're less predictable. If your quarterback's not throwing it 45 times and your running backs are only running it for a combined 15 carries.
Absolutely. Overall, I think this game was more bad Bears offense than it was good Packers defense.
Yeah,
because
agree.
The Bears defense was phenomenal in that game. We got 5 sacks, put up 10 points in fantasy for my team. So I'm happy with that.
Biggest performers were Jimmy Graham, who got the game's only touchdown, and Allen Robinson, who got 100 yards receiving. And those are the only real stats that jump off the page for me. Packers got 3 yards per carry, too. So they need to improve on their rushing offense as well.
Yeah. I mean, they were kind of in the same situation where they ended up with a lot of they hardly converted any third downs, so it was a lot of third and longs. So they were passing the ball a lot. And ultimately, Aaron Rodgers just made more plays than Mitchell Trubisky, which is not surprising.
Khalil Mack returned to his fearful form. You have him as your defensive player of the year candidate.
Yeah.
So
I mean, but that whole Bears defense, man, you got Leonard Floyd, you got Eddie Goldman in the middle, Roy Robertson Harris, who's a backup defensive lineman for them, had a good game. He had a couple sacks, I think. That whole defensive line was contributing as a whole to getting pressure on Aaron Rodgers in that game.
And they did great against Packers offense that was where all the pieces were there. Aaron Rodgers was there fully healthy, and Devontae Adams fully healthy.
Yeah.
And their Aaron Jones fully healthy. All the pieces were there, and the Bears held them in shape. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a bit surprising to see such a defensive game. It really just reminded me. It was like watching another preseason game for me. That's what it felt like.
Yeah, felt like the Super Bowl again. For the rest of Week 1, we have our picks ready for you guys. I'll let Josh start with his first pick.
All right, so we're starting off with the Rams at the Panthers. So, Willie, you want to tell me the odds on that one real quick?
The Rams at the Panthers. The Rams are minus 122, and the Carolina Panthers are at a plus 106 money line.
So I'm going to go with the underdog on this one. With the Panthers, I have a score of 27-24 Carolina. Now that Cam Newton is healthy, I do have him on my fantasy team, so I am rooting for him a bit extra this season. But I think now that Cam is back from injury, he's healthy, he's recovered his shoulder, I think he's back to MVP form hopefully this season. I think Christian McCaffrey has a huge game against this Rams defense, who was pretty weak against the run last season. Their linebackers are not good outside of Corey Littleton, who was okay for them last year. I think they're super susceptible to running backs catching passes out of the backfield. As far as their defense goes, I think that the Panthers have a very underrated defense at every level. They don't have a lot of holes. I think that they'll throw different blitz packages at Goff now that they have different personnel. They picked up Brian Burns and Christian Miller at outside linebacker rushing the passer. They have Bruce Irving and Addison off of the edge with Gerald McCoy and Quan Short rushing inside. That's a pretty formidable defensive line.
Yeah, and Brian Burns is showing up as one of the top rookie pass rushers so far.
He's providing them with a lot of utility.
A draft class that was absolutely stacked with pass rushers.
Absolutely. This is looking to be a great year, shaping up for rookie pass rushers.
Yeah. I think that Christian McCaffrey turns that offense into a multi-dimensional threat, which is Christian McCaffrey is an asset. He's incredible. And I think that they need just a little bit more out of DJ Moore. He's turning into the number one receiver. He's performed all roles that a receiver can have. He's played slot receiver, outside receiver.
He can do it all.
He's forming into the number one receiver that he's meant to be. I think that he surpasses 1,000 yards this year, turns the Carolina Panthers into even a more formidable offensive threat. Cam Newton can pull it down and run it anytime he wants. You got Christian McCaffrey catching passes out of the backfield, rushing it 20 times a game, and then you can also throw it to DJ Moore and the rest of your receivers. So I think that they're just a little bit away from turning into a very high contention level offense.
Definitely. I think they'll start off with this game scoring 27 points. I think the key for them winning this game is going to be the Rams' aging O-line. Andrew Whitworth, their left tackle, is like 38 now, something like that. They performed really well last year. I don't think they do the same this year. I can't see that happening again. Luke Kuechly and Shaq Thompson are two of the best run-stopping and coverage linebacker duos in the league. They have solid safeties. Dante Jackson is turning into a solid number one corner for them. And then the Panthers do have a solid interior offensive line to deal with Aaron Donald. I think he'll still cause havoc, but I don't think he'll be enough to change the tide in favor of the Rams. Overall, I think the Panthers defense will be able to rush the passer, enough switching from 4-3 to 3-4 schemes, utilizing all their pass rushers in different formations. And I think Cam Newton and McCaffrey tear it up against the Rams D.
That's fair. What do you got for the score?
It was 27-24 Panthers.
Cool. All right, let's move on to the Chiefs-Jags game. I have the Chiefs winning that one 24-21.
Yes, sir.
Mahomes is returning to the field after his MVP season, and I think the passing attack continues in week 1 right off the bat. The Jags defense is great, and that's why I don't have the Chiefs putting up 35-plus points.
Right.
Nick Foles is also taking the helm of the Jaguars offense, and they have a solid rushing and passing attack. With the addition of Jawan Taylor in the draft, I think that the Jaguars return to their power rushing form. Jawan Taylor's a massive individual, help clear up some holes for Leonard Fournette, get some more yards per carry with him. They also have D.D. Westbrook and Marquise Lee is returning against the Chief defense, which now features Frank Clark.
And D.D. Westbrook and Nick Foles have looked fantastic this preseason.
Totally.
They've looked like they know each other's favorite color and all that kind of stuff. They look like best buds.
Regardless, I still have the Chiefs squeaking in a victory in Jacksonville, but the Jacksonville Jaguars have hope for the rest of the season. Definitely playoff potential for sure.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you there. I have the Chiefs winning that one 31-21. I think the Jaguars definitely offer a more balanced team this season with Nick Foles and Leonard Fournette and an improved O-line.
Yeah, the line on the Chiefs is -184. Jacksonville Jaguars +158.
Interesting. That's a pretty close one, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's more far away than I would have guessed than I'm predicting it's actually going to turn out.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be a pretty close game.
I mean, the Chiefs' defense can't get worse.
Right.
Simply, they have nowhere to go but up because they were god awful last year. Just garbage trash.
This might be one of the best underdog picks. That's a pretty good price for the Jacksonville Jaguars at home.
Yeah,
but I'm going to go with the Chiefs 24-21.
Same here. I can see Tyreek Hill now that he's back, unfortunately, or Mecole Hardman catching a 70-yard touchdown pass or returning a punt or a kick for a touchdown, and just too much for the Jaguars to handle in that game. All right, let's move on to the Falcons at Vikings. Now, this was a tough one for me. I went back and forth. I think this definitely has potential to be the best game this week. Definitely potential for an overtime game.
Yeah, this looks like an exciting game.
I just couldn't come to a score prediction on this one because there's just too many possible outcomes for me on this one. Who do you have winning this game? I'm curious.
I got the Falcons winning this game in Minnesota. Matt Ryan's my MVP pick this year. He's got a recently inked Julio Jones and 2018 first rounder Calvin Ridley as pass catchers against Kirk Cousins and the Vikings. I definitely see the Falcons running away with this one. Falcons are at +166 and the Vikings are at -194. So I'm taking the underdog with the Falcons, which is a great price for the completely underrated Falcons.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I do have the Vikings winning this one. Look, man, both offensive lines were just terrible last year. And they were really the Achilles heel for both teams last year, especially the Vikings. I don't know that drafting Garrett Bradbury and starting him at center for the Vikings is going to completely fix their entire line. But what I do see being the difference in this game is the Vikings defense being able to take more of an advantage on the Falcons offensive line. That Vikings D is just stacked at every level. There are no holes in that defense. I love them. I think they're going to be a top 5 defense this year. I'm pretty sure I've said that already, and I'll say it again. But man, that Vikings defense is just scary. Yeah, and the Vikings, they lived and died by their O-line last year. It really was the determining factor in them losing a lot of games. I think that Dalvin Cook healthy and a good running back depth will help remedy that. And I think Devontae Freeman and Dalvin Cook both ball out in this game. I think they have really big games. I can definitely see that happening. But ultimately, I think Minnesota's D is going to get a handful of sacks against Matt Ryan. I think they're going to stifle them. And I just believe in the Vikings defense and Mike Zimmer more than I do anything else in this game.
Cool. Moving on to the Titans-Browns game. We finally get to see Baker Mayfield on the field with all that hyped-up offense. I'm super excited for it. It's
I
featuring
can't wait.
Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, Nick Chubb, Baker Mayfield. They got a lot of young guys to be excited about on both sides of the field.
There's a
And
lot of pressure on them, though.
right, but they have a personality instilled of them of an immense swagger, and that is exactly what Odell Beckham Jr. is looking for. Not happy in New York, he's going to be happy in Cleveland and ball out. When that team starts losing, though, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be not good. It's going to be very bad. But
Assumedly, that'll be up to Baker to wrangle in the cattle.
yeah, no kidding. He's shown up as a captain. He looks great. I have the Browns winning that one at home, 27-13. The Cleveland Browns are at minus 270 favorites over the Tennessee Titans, who are at 230.
I don't know if I'd take that bet. I agree with you totally. I think the Browns are going to win that game. I can see it 28-13. I can see Baker and Odell and Jarvis and Nick Chubb living up to the offensive hype this season. David Njoku, the tight end, might be good against that Titans defense. I think the Cleveland pass rush also shines against this Tennessee team as well.
For sure.
I'm going to say at least one defensive touchdown for the Browns. 28-13 for me in that game. All right, let's see who we got next. So let's start with the 49ers and Bucks. Now, I may be going off on a limb here, but my score prediction for this game is 49ers 30-27.
Wow.
This was one of my favorite games to pick. I loved looking at this matchup. So it's interesting. The Niners had the worst in league history, 7 total turnovers last year, right? Simply 7 for the entire year. It's the worst that has ever been with the
49ers
amount of turnovers.
Defense?
Yep, 49ers defense.
That's the least? That's
Yep.
incredible.
I mean, that's 7 turnovers in total for the whole year, so that's counting forced fumbles and interceptions
Right.
and flipping the field position, right? So I believe they only had 2 interceptions last year in total.
Wow.
But they rebuilt that defense. They brought in Jason Verrett. They drafted Nick Bosa for some edge pressure. They got D Ford. That's a scary pass rush now.
Mm-hmm.
I do think this is going to be a shootout, though. Jason Verrett and Quan Williams are both questionable for the 49ers, so that's 2 of their starting corners. Jimmy Ward, their starting safety, is out with injury. The Bucs secondary is not better by any means. They're starting rookie 3rd-round pick Edwards at safety with Justin Evans out, who is a great safety. I think they're desperately going to miss him. Their other starting safety is Tahir Whitehead, whoever that is. And then their starting corners are Carlton Davis and Vernon Hargreaves, and behind them is inexperience. So not a lot of faith in either secondary. For the Buccaneers, JPP is out for them, and they don't have much pass rush outside Ndamukong Suh they brought in this year. This game is definitely going to be shootout, I think. Both quarterbacks are not afraid at all to throw the deep pass, especially Jameis Winston, who I think is a great fantasy start this week, honestly. I can see Jameis Winston balling out in this game.
Not only balling out, but stepping up and becoming the first overall pick that he was meant to be.
Absolutely. Now that he has Bruce Arians as his head coach, I think that's a good duo. I think he'll bring the best out of Jameis Winston. I just don't have a lot of faith in Winston's Winston's ability to win games, win close games. I think that'll be the case here. And again, Winston is always a boom or bust candidate. He might throw 5 picks in this game. You never know. Garoppolo, I think, just has a range of weapons here. Wide receivers and running backs. I think they score more points. Mike Evans is also questionable in this game with an illness. So we don't know if he's going to start. If he does, he might be limited. Overall, I think this is going to be an offensive showcase for both teams.
49ers are at plus 106. That's who you're taking, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Jimmy Garoppolo, the hype surrounding him has faded away since his injury. He's 8-1 as a starter, not including the game in which he tore his ACL last year. but he was 7-0. He was 7-0 coming into 2017. Sorry, he was 7-0 coming into 2018.
Right.
And then he went 1-1 and then tore his ACL.
Yeah, regardless, he's a winner, and Jameis Winston is not.
Right.
I think that might be the difference in this game.
Yeah, I agree. He's my comeback player of the year. He's one comeback player of the year candidate.
He's my comeback player of the year candidate.
I'm going to move on to the Bills and Jets game. I'm actually, 2 years ago, this was a crap show. But
right.
But I like the Jets this season. They've added offensive guru Adam Gase, and they've added Le'Veon Bell to an offense featuring Sam Darnold, who I thought was going to be the number 1 overall pick in the 2018 draft.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll just have to wait and see how he progresses. I don't think that Josh Allen can hold up very well against the Jets defense, especially with Cole Beasley and Zay Jones catching passes from him. Keep an eye on Devin Singletary, the rookie running back, to make an appearance in Shady McCoy's absence, but don't count on that offense scoring more than 10 points. I have the Jets winning that game 17-10. The Jets are at -154 over the Bills, who are at +134.
Wow, I actually have a very similar score for that game. I have the Jets as well, 17-14. I think that Josh Allen will ultimately. I just think that Sam Darnold will outduel Josh Allen, and I think that Darnold has the superior running back help by far with Le'Veon Bell. Frank Gore is 40 now, and not gonna get. He's not. They're not going to use him as the workhorse as they once could have when he was younger. So I agree. Devin Singletary could have a good game in this one. They'll probably use him a good bit now that McCoy's gone. It'll be interesting to see how he progresses throughout the year and how they use him.
Yeah. Okay, you want to go with your next pick?
Yep. Let's go to. You know what? I'm going to save the Giants and the Cowboys for last.
That's a good one. I agree.
Let's move on, for obvious reasons. Let's move on to the Lions and the Cardinals. So I have the Lions winning 33-17 here. And look, I'm being nice to the Cardinals here. On the bright side, the Lions do not have much outside of Darius Slay as far as cornerbacks go. So I think Kyler Murray is going to have some fun taking some deep shots early on in this game. And he might be successful doing that. Outside of Chandler Jones and T. Sizzle for the pass rush for the Cards. And T. Sizzle is going to be in the game predominantly on third down only in there to rush the passer. The Cards really have nothing on defense outside of those two guys. Maybe Budda Baker, their safety, shows up. He's all right. Jordan Hicks, their middle linebacker they picked up from Philadelphia, has not looked the same ever since he suffered a torn pectoral, I believe. He just has not looked the same since coming off of that injury. They don't have Patrick Peterson, who's suspended. Brandon Williams and Robert Alford, their other two starting corners, are on IR.
Yikes.
So Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones, and Danny Amendola, right, the Lions receivers, going up against Byron Murphy, rookie, and Tremaine Brock. And who knows, maybe Kyler will play slot corner for them. I don't. It's a ghost town in the secondary. Past that, the Lions have a fantastic matchup there, and it's going to be a great fantasy matchup for Jones and Golladay. They're gonna run a ton of play action with a run heavy offense for the Lions. The Lions do have an underrated and improved defense, I believe. Now they have Trey Flowers, Mike Daniels, Snacks Harrison, and Gerard Davis to stop the run. Kerryon Johnson is going to be the difference in this game. That's why the Lions are scoring 33 points. I feel like people are sleeping on Kerryon Johnson. Do you realize he averaged 5.5 yards per carry last year?
That's got to be a league leading.
Probably was. He's gonna eat this defense alive. Just destroy them. And did I forget to mention that the Cardinals were last in the league in rushing yards allowed?
Not a good matchup.
There's no way the Cards are winning this game. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the Arizona Cardinals are big underdogs at home at +128. The Detroit Lions are at -148 on the road. The more I think about it, the Cardinals had a really stacked draft this year. Kyler Murray, consensus number 1 pick.
They did, yeah.
Byron Murphy, who they're starting. Zach Allen, who is one of my favorite prospects. Minus the minor detail that he played for Boston College, who didn't face a lot of NFL level talent. Deontay Thompson, I was looking at pretty closely. Got drafted in the 5th round, and he's backing up DJ Swearinger, but he looks great too.
Yeah, I mean they're starting their first 4 rookies that they drafted.
Right, and that's not to say that they're going to win. I think that the Lions are going to win as well, but I think that there's a lot to be hopeful for. I mean, I like the draft class that they have, and bringing in young guys, that's a great look for your team.
Absolutely, I just don't love them this year.
Kyler Murray's going to have a rough 2 weeks.
Yeah, poor guy.
At least first 2 weeks, because week 2 he plays the Ravens. Yeah, this is going to be a bad start for Kyler Murray, in my opinion.
Hey, man, at least he gets to play football. Maybe he's going to get sacked every other play, but at least he gets to start. He's a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Okay, speaking of the Ravens, I have the Ravens and the Dolphins matchup going to the Ravens 21-6. The Ravens are.
Sorry, real quick. That's. I think that's the exact score I have as well for that game. Go ahead. Sorry.
We'll get back to you on that one. That's cool. The Baltimore Ravens are huge huge favorites on the road versus the Miami Dolphins for good reason, because Miami Dolphins don't have a team anymore.
Yeah, I have the Ravens winning 20-6.
Wow.
Maybe one less touchdown, maybe a couple more field goals for them, but.
I think that people are sleeping on Lamar Jackson. I'm going to hop on that hype train. I would pick him in any DFS sports and start him in your fantasy lineups.
Hopping on that Lamar train. I like it.
He's in the conversation for leading the league in rushing yards after week 1. Not a whole lot I can say about the Dolphins. Yeah, it's
I can
100%
see that totally.
possible. I mean, especially against the Dolphins. I read something funny that the Dolphins released their 2019 calendar with 12 players on it. And 7 players are now gone off that calendar. That calendar is no.
That's not a good look.
Yeah, that's horrible.
That's a big oof.
I wouldn't be surprised if this is a shutout. That's how bad they are. And I'm also
newsflash, Dolphins fans, you're in a rebuild. Sorry to break it to you.
Yeah, I mean you got a few first round picks for Laramie Tunsil. I mean, I would have chosen Laramie Tunsil to build around, but I mean, up to you. Whatever. I'm not an owner. I'm also excited to see Earl Thomas return to the field. Very excited to see Earl Thomas return to the field. I have no ill feelings against him, nor should any Seahawks fan. He deserved a massive contract, and Seattle didn't give him one. So, I mean, whatever, flipping off the coach, that's fine. I understand.
Do you, as a Seahawks fan, you're okay with that?
Yeah, he deserves a huge contract, and he didn't get one.
He does.
He was left unprotected from injury, and he got injured and flipped off the sideline. I probably would have done the exact same thing, because you feel like you're getting fisted by your organization by being unprotected. A long-term contract is like a condom against an organization, because it's a complete prophylactic against being given like a totally substandard contract, because people are going to be afraid of you if you're injured during the last season of your contract. So I guess, and that's a good reason for people to start holding out of franchise tags.
Yeah, definitely. But I think the franchise tag is going to be one of those things that changes here soon in the league. Unfortunately, Earl Thomas could not find a condom last season with the Seahawks, which is weird because I mean, if I were a Seahawks fan, I'd be real disappointed about that. Because I mean. I as just a fan of the NFL, I would have liked to see Earl Thomas, the player, finish his career in Seattle.
You know what? I would have loved that too. I would have loved the Seahawks organization to give him the money.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, that does it for that prediction. 21-6 Ravens.
21-6. Yeah. I won't be surprised if it's more of a blowout. Honestly, Ryan. I mean, they do have Fitzmagic starting at quarterback. So they may score more than 6 points.
They might have 500 passing yards. You never know.
If
50-50.
If they have 500 passing yards, if Fitz is throwing that much, he will have at least 3 interceptions in that game. I guarantee that. All right. Let's move on to Oh God, another just fantastic matchup. Again, this week is just full of great matchups. We got the Steelers at the Patriots in Foxborough. This is another one that could be the best game of the week. I could definitely see this being an offensive shootout. I have the Steelers winning, actually, 26-23. I do think it's going to be a close game. What are the odds on this one?
The Steelers and the Patriots. The Steelers are at plus 215, and the Patriots are minus 250.
I'm taking that bet all day long.
On the Steelers?
Yes, on the Steelers. I really like this matchup. Listen, the Pats typically start off the year slow.
Yeah, every year.
Every year. I feel like for the past...
And you think the dynasty's over, but, you know...
They prove you wrong every year. But it feels to me like for the past 4 years, they've gone 2-2, 2-3 to start off the season, right? That gives me a little bit more confidence in the Steelers, but I think the key to this game and what will ultimately determine this game, the Steelers were tied for first in sacks last year, in total sacks in the league. Conversely, the Patriots, outside of Michael Bennett, who's like 35, they don't have much of a proven pass rush outside of Dante Hightower, who is a linebacker, unfortunately, and not a pass rusher. He is a great pass rushing linebacker, but the Steelers have to pressure Tom Brady. They have to.
That's the formula.
It is. If they don't do it, they will lose this game. But I have a lot of confidence that they will.
Yeah.
If they make Tom Brady uncomfortable, and if they force him to make those rare mistakes and just generally, again, this hardly ever happens. I can probably count on one hand that the amount of times this has happened in the regular season. But if they keep Tom Brady guessing on defense, they will win this game. Their offense can definitely keep up with the Patriots' offense. I think that they have solid pass rushers and a zone blitz scheme that is absolutely capable of doing that to Tom Brady week one. I think that's the key, throwing different zone blitz packages at him. The Pats are going to look to do the same against Ben Roethlisberger, I think, but it's not going to be as effective. Listen, man, their secondary was fantastic last year, but at some point, and again, you can say the same about Tom Brady, age catches up to players, right? Their secondary is old. They got a bunch of old men running around back there, man. The McCourties are 32. Patrick Chung is snorting lines, and, Ben Roethlisberger is one of the best. Football. He's one of the best at throwing the deep pass and attacking the secondary. So I have the Steelers winning that game 26-23.
Yeah.
What you got?
I don't see that happening. I'm not even going to mention the fact that Antonio Brown is playing on the Steelers now, or on the Patriots now, because last season he was in a Steelers uniform.
Oh, I want to talk about it so bad.
I know.
No time, Willie.
He's probably not going to play. But, even though they historically get off to slow starts in the season, I don't see Tomlin pulling off this one and taking advantage of the early slump. We'll see. Like you said, the Patriots have great pass coverage, and I think they'll be able to lock down Juju pretty well. And, their wide receiver core has, let's face it, taken a significant drop since Antonio Brown left.
That's true.
I have to believe that a little bit of Juju's success came from people paying more attention to the other side of the field.
I agree with that, but I just think the Steelers have, if they didn't have a tight end, if they didn't have a running back, I would agree with you. But they have James Conner and Jalen Samuels out of the backfield. Vance McDonald is an emerging player at the tight end position. And they have good wide receiver depth. There's no slouch across from Juju. You got James Washington, Deontay Johnson, who they drafted in the third round, and Dante Moncrief, who didn't do well last year, but I think will do very well in the Steelers system. And I love that line for the Steelers. What was it? Plus 210, you said? I love
Steelers
that.
Is 215, yeah. Yeah, that's up there with the underdog picks.
I'm taking that all day long.
Yeah.
What you got next?
Redskins Eagles divisional matchup. The division that you love and cherish so much. I hope
they both lose.
This is going to be a runaway train. The Redskins are going to get demolished on both sides of the ball while Carson Wentz scores a league-high amount of points in passing yards. This is not even close. Case Keenum is horrible against a good pass rush.
Yeah, yes, he's so bad. I'm sorry.
And the Eagles are up there in the top pass rushes in the league. And the Eagles, I'm betting throw at least one, if not two, defensive scores on the board.
Yeah.
I have the Eagles all in all winning this 31-7. The Eagles line at home is minus 450. Nobody can tell me that the Redskins are going to come into Philadelphia against Philly fans, against Carson Wentz, against all those guys on that offense, against all those guys on that defense, and find a way to pull this one out.
You know, the first thing that I wrote down in my notes for this game was Eagles D smothers Redskins QB. That was literally the first sentence. But yeah, they don't have Jordan Reed. He's out with a concussion. The wide receiver room is possibly the thinnest in the NFL. Paul Richardson is their number one, which is not what you want. Trey Quinn, Mr. Irrelevant, is their slot.
Yikes.
And I can't even name another Redskins receiver after that. The Eagles are just better all around. Their running backs, they can rotate in and out throughout the game. It goes 4 deep for them. They're going to run the play action well. They're going to ease Wentz back into this game. I don't think they'll have him take a ton of attempts, but even with that, they're just too talented, and I can see him still throwing a lot of touchdowns on maybe 25 attempts.
I think the Redskins are going to be in a position where they end up having to start Dwayne Haskins at some point in the season.
I agree with that completely.
The Giants are in a spot where they can keep Eli Manning in there and let Daniel Jones do the Patrick Mahomes method of just sitting and waiting, learning the playbook and being comfortable with it before. But the Redskins have to put him in at some point this year. You can't have Case Keenum your whole year.
Yeah, no. If I were a Redskins fan, I wouldn't want Case Keenum for the whole year. I'd be begging for Dwayne Haskins.
No kidding.
It's not an Eli Manning situation where you have a future Hall of Famer starting.
So we're gonna jump to Monday with your next one, right?
I believe so. Let's see. We just did. What was my last pick? It was Steelers Patriots. Yeah, so we'll go to Texans at Saints. Oh boy.
Very interesting one.
I love man, this is just such another. I can't wait to watch the game. Can it be Sunday already?
I know, right?
I want it to be Sunday. Saints 28-20. Now, this like you said, this is an interesting one. I want to go a little bit deep on this. So the Saints' success last year, and they were a 13-3 team. Let's not forget last year, and they still have a Hall of Fame quarterback. Their offensive efficiency was so good. They were one of the best teams at converting third downs, taking time off the clock. Their time of possession was crazy last year. Their ultimate formula for success in winning games was to just put up points and keep the ball in their hands while keeping their defense off the field, who struggled in red zone efficiency at stopping teams in the red zone and a lot of other major statistical areas. It was middle of the pack as a whole, but the Saints defense was adept at one thing, and that was rushing the passer and getting sacks. And what are the Texans not good at?
I think that the most important stat line to watch for is how many times Deshaun Watson is hurried, pressured, or sacked.
Yes.
Because the Texans basically spent a majority of their hope for growth in the next 2 years by trading their 2 next first-rounders for Laremy Tunsil. So, I mean, they definitely upgrade it, but...
Yeah, to their credit, they did try. They did try their damn heart out to improve that offensive line.
They're facing a great Saints pass rush, who I personally think is going to win the trench battle. Well, I mean, there's no way that the Saints don't win this game, in my opinion. I think that one thing to look for is that one stat line about how Deshaun Watson is pressured.
Yeah, Saints were tied for third last year in sacks. The addition of Laremy Tunsil will immediately be tested by Cam Jordan, one of the best pass rushers in the league. We'll see how that turns out. Marcus Davenport is looking to break out as a pass rusher after the Saints traded up for him in the 14th with the 14th pick overall in 2018. He only had 4.5 sacks last year, but he showed promise. What's also interesting is that the Texans' red zone efficiency was quite doo-doo last year. It was tied for 4th worst in the league at 50%. So they are going up against a defense who is not good at stopping you in the red zone. They can't even put the ball in the red zone in the first place. So I'm not too worried about that. Ultimately, I think it's a battle of superior strengths taking advantage of weaknesses. And yeah, I mean, the Saints offense led by Drew Brees, Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, it's going to be too much to handle. The Saints offensive line is infinitely superior. They're going to stifle J.J. Watt and Whitney Merciless off the edge. Deshaun Watson is still going to be able to make some splash plays. Now with a solid blindside protector.
The Texans, I want to just put in one extra note. The Texans have put in so much on making this a win now season and a win now team.
Truly.
I am so upset how little Deshaun Watson's potential is being pissed away in Houston.
Yeah.
He's such a great quarterback, and if he had the protection that he deserves, then he would be among the elite.
You know, we won't go too much into this because I mean that it could be a whole nother video. Yeah. But it's interesting that Andrew Luck in that same division has now retired, and Deshaun Watson is basically going through the same thing that he went through earlier in his career.
Yikes.
But ultimately, Deshaun Watson won't be given enough opportunities to score the ball in this game. The Saints are going to dominate time of possession and get the win.
I'll let you cover your Broncos-Raiders matchup before I jump into the Bengals-Seahawks.
Sounds good. So this is another interesting game. And before I go off on this, I really like the Broncos as one of those teams that nobody expects to be good this year that end up making the playoffs. I can see it. Now, hear me out. Listen, man. So I got the Broncos winning 21-14. All right. So their offense could quietly be pretty decent this year. So I know they have Flacco, right? Fluco. But he is nonetheless a veteran quarterback with solid playoff experience. All right. In his best years with the Ravens, he had solid running back help and solid wide receivers. That's exactly what the Broncos have. And the Ravens had one of the best defenses in the NFL. What do the Broncos have? They have a two-headed monster in the backfield of Phillip Lindsay and Royce Freeman. They have a solid, if not the best, pass rushing duo in the league in Bradley Chubb and Von Miller. You couple that with a good wide receiver group. You got Emmanuel Sanders and Cortland Sutton. Deshaun Hamilton behind them as a good wide receiver 3. And that defense is still really good. It's not how it used to be, but their secondary of Chris Harris Jr., Bryce Callahan, Justin Simmons, and Kareem Jackson, that's a damn good secondary. They have decent depth behind those guys. They have solid veterans along the defensive line. You got Derek Wolfe still starting there. And their head coach is going to be a big one in this one. Vic Fangio. All right. Sound familiar to Bears fans? Yeah, he was your defensive coordinator last year. He's quite possibly one of, if not the most talented defensive masterminds in NFL history. He's absolutely a genius. So you got him at the helm. You got a tight end duo of Jeff Hireman and Noah Fant at tight end, which could quietly be really effective this year, depending on how Noah Fant develops. And don't forget that Joe Flacco loves him some tight ends.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Drew Lock this season either.
Drew Lock is on IR.
Was he
I don't know. He
placed on IR before the preseason?
I don't know. He might be available to
after 8 weeks.
Yeah. Potentially. But it's going to be Flacco for most of the year. If their O-line develops, they have some young guys. They signed Jawan James at right tackle. I think this could be a playoff team, if not a wild card team.
Wow.
It is dependent on how well Flacco plays, but I think that they can mask his inefficiencies with a good running back duo and a really good defense.
Yeah.
The Raiders have no proven pass rush to speak of, so the offensive line weakness isn't too big of a worry. Outside of Maurice Hurst rushing inside for them, and they also have possibly the worst tight ends. They do have, I'm saying it, they have just the worst tight end situation in the league. The Raiders do,
This is the closest matchup in terms of betting odds. The Broncos,
which blows my mind.
the Broncos on the road are minus 112 against the Oakland Raiders at minus 102.
I think it should be so much higher.
And the point spread is plus and minus 1.
And
Yeah.
like you said earlier, even with his off the field circus carousel of bullshit, they do not have Antonio Brown starting for them anymore. So they don't have a wide receiver 1 anymore.
Don't talk about Antonio Brown. Don't talk about
I'm
Antonio
sorry,
Brown.
but he-
no, I'm telling that to myself.
He would have made a difference if he was playing for them in this game.
Yeah, of course.
And I feel bad for Derek Carr and his lack of weapons. Josh Jacobs might be an X factor in this game for the Raiders. We haven't seen him.
We haven't seen
him yet.
But that's a good sign, I think, because the Raiders' unwillingness to have him possibly injured in a preseason game
Yeah.
just shows that he's an absolute starter, and they absolutely need him.
Yeah.
So
I have the Broncos winning this 21-14. I think it'll still be a fairly close game. I just don't see the Raiders scoring many points, and I see the Broncos possibly running it down their throats with that running back group. Phillip Lindsay, he started 7 games. He's so underrated. He started 7 games. He's undrafted, by the way, and possibly one of the best afros in the game. He started 7 games last year and still had like over 1,000 yards, over 5 yards a carry.
And he was in a rookie class with Royce Freeman.
Dude's
who was
great.
A 2nd-round pick.
Dude's great.
Okay, now we're getting into some yummy stuff. Bengals Seahawks. I get to go to this game in Seattle. I'm super excited. When DK Metcalf's inducted into the Hall of Fame, I'll be able to say that I saw him play in his first game. But in all seriousness, getting to watch Jadeveon Clowney, Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, and all those guys all on one field is going to be awesome. This is the second highest point spread of the week at 9.5. Seahawks are home favorites at minus 450, which is tied for the highest with the Philadelphia Eagles. Cincinnati Bengals are at plus 350.
I would give them more of a chance if they weren't playing in Seattle, but
Oh my gosh.
I give them virtually no chance.
That place is so loud. I'm going to come in on Monday and I'm going to be
Dude, you better pack your earplugs, big
yeah,
boy.
No kidding. And AJ Green is allergic to Seattle, so they're going to be completely turning to Joe Mixon.
AJ Green's got a lot more physical issues to deal with other than allergies.
No, he's allergic to Seattle is what it is.
He probably is.
Oh, yeah, and Seattle's defense got beefed up in the offseason and the preseason. Joe Mixon, I think that he's going to be the biggest piece against the Seahawks. And
I hope so, because I'm starting him in fantasy this week.
And I don't see him making that much of an impact against Seahawks defense. I have the Seahawks defense starting in almost all my fantasy leagues and DFS.
You're starting Mixon too in our league, right?
No.
Aren't you? Didn't
No.
you draft him though?
No, I'm staying away from him. I don't like drafting people who take up that much of the workload because I think that 100% that they're either going to be injured or they're going to have something lingering by the end of the season that's going to keep them from performing that well. I just have a nagging in the back of my head. Saquon Barkley, I love the guy and I'll draft him first overall, but I'm worried that he's going to get injured with the amount of carries that he's going to get this year and the amount of touches he's going to get this year.
We'll see. I don't know that I agree with that. I'm hyping up Joe Mixon.
I don't know if I
season.
mentioned this earlier. I have the Seahawks score winning 30-14.
Yeah, I have a similar score, 23-14. Yeah, it's the number one rushing attack in football last year versus a god awful defense.
Yeah.
Solid front seven versus a terrible O line. The Hawks
I feel like there's not a whole lot to mention here.
It's just very, very one sided.
Mm-hmm.
Good for you.
Yeah, I get
might
to go
be-
see the Seahawks win.
Yeah, you might be going to their easiest game of the season.
That's great.
Yeah.
I just wanted it because it's a season opener, but I don't want to go to a game that I drive
Where they lose.
drive a few hundred miles to see them and then they lose.
Right. Yeah, Wilson's the better QB by far. This one's just too easy. I would have put the Seahawks up by more points, I think, around the 30 mark, but they are going to run that ground and pound style to run out the clock.
Yeah.
So I think
that's a good factor to that's a good consideration factor.
yeah, I think 20 20 to 27 points is a good range for them in this game.
Cool. All right.
Lucky bastard gets to go to that game.
Do you get to go to the Giants game to watch them get
No.
their ass kicked by the Cowboys?
No. And I think even if I had the opportunity to go to this game, well, of course I would. I have to 'cause as a Giants fan. Definitely not the best one to pick. Man, I'm sorry. I'd love to pick the Giants winning every game, but I can't do that. Okay? So I have the Cowboys winning 27-20. I think this game is going to be closer than a lot of people are giving it credit for. What are the odds on this bad boy?
The Giants are at plus 280, and the Dallas Cowboys are at minus 340. So they're huge favorites.
Yeah, I am a little bit surprised that it's not closer, just due to like the Cowboys. And I'm saying this as a Giants fan. I think the media has a huge Cowboys bias against them. There's like a conspiracy against the Cowboys in the media. I'm surprised that line isn't closer, but that being said, I would not bet on the Giants, even though I love them. I'm sorry, Eli. I'm sorry. But no, I realized that when I went through all of my my Giants games, all my picks for their schedule this season, I had the opposing team scoring a lot of points. And I picked them on a game-to-game basis, so I didn't really have that in mind, like as a whole. So instead of sticking with my 30-20 prediction from the last podcast, I'm bringing it down 27-20. I think that's more realistic because you're shaking off that week 1 rust.
That's fair.
Yeah, Zeke and Amari are just too good for our young defense. I think Dak will kill with his legs at some point. He'll convert a damn third down that's going to be crucial to the game, and it's just I'm emotional. I'm real emotional. I think Saquon's going to have like 8 to 12 receptions. I think he's going to have a big game regardless. He's going to help. It's going to be in a losing effort though. The Giants on a good note, they're going to utilize the quick rhythm passing game with Golden Tate out. Sterling Shepard, Evan Ingram, and Saquon Barkley as their top 3 receivers. They're gonna do it well, just not well enough, since you don't have a really solid proven number 2 to go into that quick rhythm passing system. I'm hoping optimistically that our young defense is hungry and they come to play. I hope that they force a turnover, or at least contribute to some good field position, maybe snag a defensive touchdown at some point, because I don't see our offense scoring more than 2 touchdowns. Again, I'm sorry, Golden Tate's out. I'm sorry.
Man, I could see Saquon having a pair by himself.
Yeah, it's just the Cowboys team is just they're real good, and we just have a lot of young players. We're starting a good amount of rookies. With that being said, I am excited to see our young players and rookies start. DeAndre Baker, who's thought of as the most pro-ready, NFL start-ready cornerback in the draft, he's starting next to Jackrabbit. Dexter Lawrence is also starting, our other first-round pick from this year.
Dexter Lawrence is who the Giants were creaming their pants for, trading Odell Beckham Jr. to the Browns.
That's right. So technically, in that whole trade, now that everything has panned out, we traded Odell and Olivier Vernon, right, for Jabril Peppers, Kevin Zeitler, Dexter Lawrence, and O'Shane Zimenez. Which in the
look great.
Which in the long run, I think we won that trade.
I'd somewhat agree with that. It wasn't a good fit for Odell Beckham Jr. necessarily. I think everybody wins that trade, honestly.
I think we do. It's all optimism over here for Giants fans because we need it. We need it, man. We're suffering.
Yep.
We're suffering, man. My voice is cracking. It's tough. It's tough times for us.
I'm sitting here laughing my ass off.
I'm under a lot of stress, man. Picking Giants games is a double-edged sword for obvious reasons.
Yeah. I'm glad I got to pick a W this week. We'll see what happens. Yeah, and we'll see how we're keeping track of our bets and watching how we stack up over the year. we're keeping track of these all on a spreadsheet. So we'll get you those figures at the end of the year and see how good we did.
I think that in this game, this is the last game that we have to talk about today, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. I think some interesting things to watch for in this game will be the matchup with undrafted slot cornerback Grant Haley for the Giants going up against Randall Cobb in the slot for the Cowboys. Grant Haley was fourth. He was the fourth rated slot cornerback by Pro Football Focus last year in limited games, but when he did play, he was very, very good.
So now he's starting as a slot corner?
I believe he's listed on the depth chart as the third starter there at the cornerback position. That'll be a fun matchup to see. It'll be a big test for him this year, going off the bat against one of the most experienced and possibly dangerous slot receivers in the league in recent years. So that'll be fun to watch. And listen, I would be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about my boy Evan Ingram. As far as a fantasy perspective, let's just say start him.
Yeah.
And
100%.
let me talk about why. He ended last season on such a high note. He caught 22 balls in the last 4 games alone, and that was second at the tight end position in that span. How's this for stats, Willie? And you have him, you motherfucker. You drafted him in our league, didn't you? You're starting him this week, aren't you?
I sure am.
I hate you. In 2000,
Saquon Barkley too.
Yeah, he did. Can we switch teams? Is that cool? In 2018, last year in 2 games against Dallas, Evan Ingram had 7 and 8 targets in those games respectively, 7 and 5 catches with 67 and 81 yards, touchdowns in both games. He'll have a similar target share, if not more so, with Golden Tate out in this game. Start him in fantasy this week.
I will agree with that.
Start him. He's a beast.
A lot more to say about the Giants than I did about the Seahawks. But all right.
I spent, like I said, I spent a while on this game, and it's not the. I probably spent like a good 2 hours, and I'd say one of those hours is a good amount of fun. You know, I get to do some research on my team, and another one of those hours is just PTSD from just manning faces and sacks and bad O-line play. And
you get a whole nother 10 years of manning faces with Daniel Jones.
Hey, man, I'll take that. Daniel Jones is a handsome man. He's a good-looking dude. He's the GOAT.
Okay.
The goats are good-looking typically. You know, you got Tom Brady. He's a handsome man.
Tom Brady's cheat meal is quinoa. It's disgusting.
Hey, man, quinoa is good, man. Don't.
That's his cheat meal. His cheat meal is not Hot Pockets or, pizza rolls, or ribs or anything.
Whatever he's doing, it's working.
Oh God, I know.
All right, that's gonna do it for this one. This was a ton of fun, man. I really enjoyed this episode. I can't wait to do this every single week, recapping the games every single week, which is what we will do in the next episode. Recap the Sunday and Monday games. And you'll get to tell me all about going up to Seattle, seeing the Seahawks win definitely in that game.
I'll try to make the voice come out of my mouth.
Yeah. Hopefully your vocal cords won't be shot, and hopefully you can still hear.
Yeah. Exactly. That place is so dang loud. But yes, we look forward to bringing content to you every Wednesday and then every Saturday before the games. So yeah, we're super excited. That'll do it for the game picks.
Seriously though,
I gotta take my bra off.
Objectively, Daniel Jones is a good-looking dude. He's handsome. He's a handsome man.
I don't know. We'll see how he ages.
Just Google image search Daniel Jones now.
I know what he looks like, and I know that he's like almost an exact mirror clone of Eli Manning. But Ben Roethlisberger...
Hey, Eli Manning is not too easy. He's easy on the eyes too. You know what I'm saying?
Ben Roethlisberger started off looking like my uncle with the soul patch, and then he turns into, what Ben Roethlisberger looks like today.